we've been to see my counsellor, and she says that we actually have, a lot of couples don't survive this. A lot of partners don't survive. They survive it. They can't handle it. They run away. It's too hard. And so, you know, we do have a strong relationship. And I think a big part of that is, you know, we try and maintain we've got a good friendship, and also we're still having, like, a lot of sex. I've got stage 4 bowel cancer. We're going to talk about everything from my diagnosis to treatment and how things are going right now. Talk about the things that people might be curious or want to hear but are too frightened to ask.
That's Jo McKenzie-McLean, and I'm Colleen O'Hanlon. We've been mates and colleagues at Stuff for 20 years. Since her diagnosis, Jo's been incredibly open about her illness on social media, and in this podcast, she wants to go further.
So I'm just hoping that what we do here can just help people who are on that journey, whether they've got cancer or not, and make them feel that, you know, that they're not alone.
I'm going to be with Jo every step of the way. There will be tears and laughter. She'll also offer practical insights, support and hope. This then is the story of Jo versus cancer. Jo, last time we got together, we talked about, chemotherapy, how you were handling that, and the broader treatment plan. I'd be really interested to know about the impact of cancer on your relationships, positive and negative. You know, be that with your parents, partner, child, friends. You know, like, are there some relationships that have really flourished, and others that have foundered?
Well, I think, in particular, my relationship with my partner has got a lot stronger because he's had to step up and do things that we never anticipated he would ever have to do. And
that's especially amazing because you weren't like partners of 20 years, right? You know, Michael was reasonably new to your life. You know, you hadn't had a long and healthy, happy history together, right? So it was a big call for him.
Well, I mean, we've been friends forever. I've known him all my life, so we were already friends. So that was, but not intimately. I mean, you know, he's one of those rare men that crossed the friendship zone.
Yeah, he got out of there.
He got to the other side. But, you know, we'd both come out of marriages, and we were looking forward to being able to build a new relationship together. And, we hadn't long been, you know, a couple of years in, and then we got hit with this. So it's been a real test on our relationship because we live 3 hours apart as well, and he co-parents and has a job down there, and, you know, I've got my children up here, and you know, from the start we got sort of thrust into the medical system. The first couple of days, you know, after surgery, he was having to shower me, get me off the toilet. You know, we'd been intimate, obviously, but
yeah, I know.
Not
but it's caregiving rather than, you know, love making. Yeah. Like, I know,
having to get help doing things that, you know, you feel really undignified. You know, you want to feel beautiful in front of your partner and not,
especially a new one, newish one. You know.
Yeah, and but I leaned on him quite heavily at the start. It was really scary, and he sort of showed me from the start he was going to be sticking beside me. You know, he wouldn't leave the hospital until, I mean, he was only getting a couple of hours sleep because I didn't want to be left alone at the hospital. I was freaking out and crying, and, you know, so I needed that comfort, and he provided that, and also I needed that strength and that support and that positive attitude. I needed his, you know, him, and he's quite good with positive mindset. He does that a lot he does claybird shooting, skeet shooting and stuff, and he has kind of moved a lot of that into, I think, dealing with me.
Right. Do you ever have has it ever occurred to you that people come into your life at a time that you need them? You know, that maybe Michael was that for you, you know, that he came into your life at a time that you'd really need to lean on him and the right person for that job at the time? Yeah,
I guess. I hadn't really thought. I know that I would struggle to do it without him, but yeah.
That's awesome that he's such a source of strength for you, right? Because I'm sure at times you can't kind of always pull it from within, that you've actually got to get it from an external source to help prop you up.
It's definitely made us stronger as a couple, but it has also put pressure on us because, you know, I can be quite moody and I can be unmotivated. I can be sick and just tired and, you know, and I was worried about the kids and having time with the kids, that I needed to just be alone with them and I needed to be alone with Michael, and I was worried about how much time I had left. And no one's actually told me you have this amount of time left, but I guess I felt like I had this ticking time bomb of life in front of me, and it was like...
And how do you divide it up?
Yeah.
Who gets what?
Yeah, because I had my mum, you know, I feel huge pressure knowing that I'm my parents' only child now, and just me dying early is their worst nightmare too, you know. So I'm just aware of being pulled in a lot of directions, and so it does put a lot of pressure on all relationships. But anyway, we've kind of ironing it out a bit.
And you've withstood it.
We've withstood it, and it's a evolving thing, you know. Like, it's still it is hard to juggle everything, but he manages to juggle work, but it is hard. He's really tired. There's something called I can't think of the word.
Is it like a sympathetic condition?
Like a compassion grief or something.
Yeah.
Like, because people around me are really tired of this too, right? So my parents are exhausted. My stepdad looks, I mean, he's a good-looking man, but he looks like, my parents look like they've aged 20 years. My partner looks tired and, you know, exhausted.
That's the ripple effect. It's not just you who's going through this. It's your support network, and especially those people closest to you who are helping.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, my parents are retired, nearly 70. And my dad and his wife are in their 70s, you know, and they're supposed to be enjoying retirement years and not having to step into a caregiver role for their daughter and help with their grandchildren on a, you know.
Yeah, like, on the regular rather than as a pleasure. They're actually helping doing the hard yards with you.
Yeah. And I mean, I have support from my ex-husband and his parents. They've really stepped up as well. So I do have a good support. But, you know, with I think as well with Michael, it's been an interesting experience with him too, because I think, and so, you know, we do have a strong relationship, and I think a big part of that is, you know, we try and maintain we've got a good friendship, and also we're still having like a lot of sex.
Yeah, so there's as much about your relationship as is normal as possible.
Bluntly, yeah, we're still trying to keep things normal.
Yeah,
and
still have good times.
We're still making sure, because it's been interesting. A lot of people have said to me, like, they don't think that you still have intimacy.
I don't know where you find the energy, Joe. I don't know where you find the energy, because, you know, the struggle was real.
Yeah. And a lot of people think if you're sick, you're just definitely, you would not be having sex, right?
Yeah, I guess I assumed there'd be an impact. You know, we talk about chemopause and stuff like that. I just assumed there'd be a massive impact on your libido for a start. So, you know, your willingness to have sex versus your energy to have sex. You know, I just assumed it would fall down your list of your to-do list.
Well, and I mean, you know, pre-cancer days.
I remember you're a bit of a goer.
I was going to say.
It's true though, right? That would be, I think I wouldn't be the only person that, because you're a very open person. I remember that some of the late night conversations we had in the porta cabins after the earthquakes, there was much talk about your sex life, you know, so I come from a place of
Can't
knowledge.
have been that good, because it's the best I've ever had now.
It gets better with age.
But, you know, pre-cancer days, you know, it'd be like, I have a headache, but having cancer is like the biggest one. You could be like, not
you
tonight,
play
dear.
the cancer card.
Yeah, play that. Not tonight, dear.
Yeah.
I've got a headache. I've got cancer.
Yeah.
But there's been a couple of reasons why it's been really good to keep up that sexual
part of your relationship.
Because the fact that there is so much pressure on us as a couple, just keeping that intimacy together and that connection with
and
each
it has
other.
nothing to do with cancer.
Yeah, it's just a normal part of our relationship that we had before, and just and just actually just keeping that connection because cancer changes the dynamics of your relationship, and it's changing us as well. It's changed me as a person, and it must be really hard for him to watch me going through what I'm going through, and just he used to take me hunting and fish on fishing trips, and we used to do a lot of things together, and now it is really hard. So that is one thing that we can do, just to be like, well, we're still a loving couple, and we still want to be together. And
so maybe that's one conversely good thing that cancer has given you, is that kind of commitment to fostering what's special between the two of you rather than taking it for granted.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Because I think a lot of couples do, right? It's just you trundle along in life, and before you know it, there's a bit of distance between you. But I think when you're you don't know how much time you have, I think it would be a really reasonable thing to want to really lean into having as many of the good times.
Yeah. And I don't know how many people who don't have sex, like how often they have sex a week.
Sorry, say that again. You mean people who don't have cancer, how many times they have sex? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like how frequently people...
I think there's a massive, normal is what normal is to, I think... Because I don't know if there's a correct or average amount. I think it's I
think there's a danger of the longer you go without it, the easier it is to go without it.
Absolutely, especially when you throw into the mix raising kids, paying a mortgage, jobs, all the other things that have to be done ahead of that, right?
Yeah, so it could be easy to... I've been really sore. My joints are really aching. I'm really tired. I go to bed and I really don't feel like putting out. But, you do, you're sucking up.
But otherwise...
Not literally.
I think what you're trying to say is, you might not necessarily 100% be in the mood, but you don't later regret.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So what we've found, which has been an interesting little thing that people might want to know who have got cancer, is that actually when we've been doing...
Yep, in the act of actually having sex.
Where my muscles and joints had, an hour ago been seized up and really painful, all of a sudden my limbs
flexible.
Are flying everywhere. Occasionally I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. And we've had to get creative with some positions.
Yeah.
So we came up with this position called the sleep position.
Oh, my God. It sounds like the dream.
So it's just it probably gets a wee bit boring for him, but it's a position that's comfortable for me, and it's kind of like a position I would sort of sleep in, and but it works and it's good. And
well, I suppose that you might have got to that. These are kind of conversations the pair of you are having because you've got cancer, but there's any number of different health conditions or, ability issues that people might be having that might cause other couples to have the conversations. For example, maybe your arthritis could have progressed to a point where actually some positions are painful and you have to have those conversations anyway. So in your case, it's cancer, but as people get older, bodies become more decrepit generally, right? I think it's good to know for people that there are options.
Yeah, well, with my arthritis, my knees were quite sore. So, there were certain positions probably then too that were
off the menu.
But, so he's had to sacrifice quite a lot in terms of...
Yeah, I'm sure you make up for it.
...variety. But, so that's been really interesting. We've actually raised it with the medical professionals to say that, well, this has been really interesting. After sex, Jo can move around a lot better and she doesn't seem to be in as much pain.
I wonder if that's like a hormone release thing. Maybe the feel-good hormones maybe actually have a demonstrable physical benefit for you.
I wonder if there's been any studies done on this. That would be interesting. Maybe I could be a study subject. Don't know.
Better you than me to put your sex life under the magnifying glass, that's for sure.
There definitely are endorphin really. That's another reason.
I guess is what I probably meant. Yeah,
that is another reason why I'm quite keen to keep it up, because it does. My body is so used to being in pain. Basically, from head to toe, I am in pain.
Yeah, things that make you feel good are valuable.
So yeah, that is about the only bit that hasn't been affected by cancer or arthritis.
Oh, God.
So, and it gives me great pleasure. So I'm like,
lean into
holy hell, like bring it on, like whatever can give me any pleasure, then I'll be embracing it.
I also think that's a great attitude, because I think, as you say, it would be really easy to just put it in the too hard basket. But it is something that brings you guys closer together, makes you feel good, roll with it. So could you tell us a bit about, maybe how having cancer has impacted on your relationship with your kids? How much do they know about your future?
So Travis is 12 and Morgan is 9.
Yep.
So they perhaps have different levels of understanding, but at this point they know I've got cancer and they think that the drugs that I'm on will treat me, will fix me.
Curable, to cure the cancer.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. So
is that because they have assumed, or is it because they've, you know what I mean? Like, have they just thought the cancer? Have they made that equation in their own head? Treatment equals cure, and you just haven't kind of cancelled out that assumption? It's not very articulate,
yes.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'd say that, and also when I first told them, I said that we were going to be trying every single drug to treat this. And in my head, that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
And that's what I continue to hope, and I think they're too young to try and scare them too much.
No, and if that scary time is coming, why like drag it out for them in some ways? Yeah,
I think they know what they need to know at the minute. If my health deteriorates, then we'll have to have another conversation. But at the minute, they know that I've got cancer, and their daily life is disrupted enough, I think. And my son's quite sensitive, and I just don't want to unnecessarily upset them more than I have to. And
of course, and let them as much of that childlike innocence to remain for as long as possible.
Yes,
really.
And the one thing I do. They did mention to me, when I first came home from hospital, that they found it really hard with all of the visitors that I was getting, and they were missing time alone with me. They were used to just it being us three, and they found it quite hard. And I still think that they find it difficult that, it's not just
help comes to you, right? So does it mean home is a bit of a train station at times?
Can be, yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's their personal space as well, right? As the family space, it's also...
And it's hard on mum too, because she's having to step in. Sometimes we discipline the kids at the same time. Like there's been occasions where, say, brushing teeth or whatnot, and I'm saying to the kids, trying to be a normal mum, but then my mum is in looking after me, and she's trying to take pressure off me. So she's sort of helping co-parent the kids almost. And there's times
that must be tricky.
So tricky.
Do you parent quite a lot how you were parented, or are you quite different to your own mum?
I think people would say we're similar.
Same. I think I'm the same, because I think I've got great parents. So I don't know that I've taken a drastically different pathway to them.
I grew up. Mum was a single mum, and it was just my brother, her, and I. So that's similar, but her and I probably have quite similar personalities.
Oh my God, I'm trying to imagine two of you in one small space and imagining what that looks like at times. Fireworks.
Yeah, it can be like really loving and caring, but it can be explosive. But just normal stuff. But yeah, it's hard on mum because she's kind of assuming a co-parent role rather than a grandmother role. So she's having. At times, a lot of the times, having to try and help me parent the kids and be a disciplinarian, and at times where she doesn't not normally have to be.
It seems like a lot of people, dream of being a grandparent so they can have all the good times, right? Not actually kind of be involved on the Western front of parenting.
And Morgan's nearly 10 and Travis is 12, so they're getting to an age where,
challenging
little afternoon tea parties don't cut it. You know, they're arguing back. They've got homework to do. There's hormones kicking in. It's quite full on.
I know.
And then there's times where, you know, we're both kind of like, and I'm hobbling out of my room trying to still parent sometimes, and there'll be times where Mum and I both bark the same instruction at the kids, and then I'll yell at Mum, I'm the mother.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm just trying to help. And then we both end up crying, and then we both end up hugging, and then and in the meantime, the kids have done their job and left and gone to school. Like, it's just a crazy house. It is a crazy, crazy house. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But our relationship is.
And what about our friendships? So I know that there've been some, you know, I can see there've been some women in your life particularly who have, beyond Michael, your mum and dad, your kids, but I can see there's been some really amazing friends in your life who have played enormously supportive roles, both emotional support, but really organising like practical, pragmatic things that your community can do to help. But so I'd be interested to hear about that, you know, like how people have stepped up, but also how maybe other people have, you know, have people drifted from your life, like people who maybe don't know how to talk to you or don't know how to, or feel like the cancer is a difficult topic and don't quite know how to broach it.
I would say 99% of people have been completely like showing an outpouring of love and support.
Wow.
People that I haven't, high school friends,
That's so great.
university friends, people in my community who I know who have been acquaintances but have become really close.
That's so heartening to hear. I mean, you know, like we live in a time of we worry about humanity, right? But it's so lovely to hear that actually still people care about each other.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that the kids are really picking up on too, is seeing all these people help me. So it's actually teaching them some really lovely, beautiful lessons about life and about people, about empathy and about people giving, you know, and just that cancer doesn't have to be this like scary, morbid thing all the time, you know. It's bringing a lot of positives.
And brings out the best in people, maybe.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just for example, you know, I've got I'm a bit of a clutterer and a hoarder, and, you know, I've had this friend that's come round who has just helped me when I'm ready. She's helping me just slowly sort through some stuff just to help declutter. I had another couple of friends clean out my whole kitchen while I was away getting treatment one day, just sort it out. Just recently I had two friends get their husbands basically onto the job, but I was having real trouble with all my inflammation. My kitchen was an old 1970s kitchen and I couldn't even turn on the tap some days. The old heavy drawers I couldn't use. They came round and demolished my kitchen.
Oh my God.
And put in they were putting in a new kitchen at their place, so they modified their kitchen and
put it in for you.
Put it in for me. So they've put in a new kitchen for me that I can use, and like it's changed my life in a
positive way.
You know, I mean, I couldn't even use my kitchen before. So just incredible things that just. And I mean, things don't have to be that big. That's an extreme example. Yeah. I never expected that to ever happen. And it was, you know, it's been amazing. But I mean, I'm just as overwhelmed with gratitude by people who are, you know, walking my dog every day for me, or helping bring me meals, or how, you know, there's
taking the kids out to do something cool or whatever.
There's this one old work colleague of mine who puts $20 a week into my account, into my drug fund account, just because she thinks that's
a way she can
wants
help.
to help. And
How wonderful. Must be awesome to know how much people love you, Jo.
It's funny because I've also had people contact me who reached out who have been diagnosed with cancer. I've had a few people. I've had a lot over email, you know, and just through social media. But I've had a couple of people who have reached out. That a couple in particular a guy recently. He had read some of my Facebook posts about what I thought was inappropriate, and some things that I just thought would be helpful tips. I'd done a couple of Facebook things, and he had only got diagnosed earlier this year, and he contacted me and wanted to meet for a coffee. And I actually went to uni with his brother, but we sat in a cafe and talked for ages, like a couple of hours, and that was really meaningful as well. Like people who I haven't met before, or I did know him, but like
new connections.
Yeah, and and that was really sad. Unfortunately, he passed away like just recently, and that was really unexpected. But that was really hard. Like it's really hard when you make connections like that with people that you want to. You want to support each other and help them through what you're going through. It's so nice to have just someone who is going through what you're going through, because a lot of people come and visit and a lot of friends do say, look, we don't know what to say, or we don't know what to do. But sometimes it's just a matter of just kind of like sitting there, and
sometimes it's a matter of not necessarily doing anything except showing support.
Yeah. A couple of times I get quite tired messaging all the time, and I've had a couple of friends that just sometimes text me and say, right, I'm going to pick you up for a coffee, or I'm going to take you out of town. Sometimes I just need some fresh air and a bit of a change of scenery, a coffee, do something normal, and that can change my spirits quite a lot. So, that's quite helpful.
You have, I think, shared information on your own kind of socials around, and this really resonated with me because it's one of those things where everybody wants to say the right thing. Nobody wants to add any further grief to your situation. But you were talking in one video I watched, we were talking about, basically what to not ask a person with cancer about their prognosis. And I think that's it's one of those areas where people, people aren't sure how to tackle it. It's like an elephant in the room in some ways. We don't want to ignore this and incredibly difficult time you're going through. We also don't want to, impinge upon your privacy. So do you have any kind of, I know you see yourself as just one person fighting cancer and your opinion is just one person's, but, what are some of the things that, do you have any advice for people about how to, how do you talk to somebody with cancer about their health status?
Well, one thing that has really triggered me and upset me quite a lot, and I mean, it's only since I've had cancer, I probably did it myself before I had cancer, so this is all new to me. I don't know, but there was I'm just trying to think of how to articulate this. But so I find it really hard when people ask me what my prognosis is, because I don't know entirely what my prognosis is. And I feel that when people ask, what is your prognosis, that is like saying, how long have you got left to live?
They're basically saying, are you going to die?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first time someone asked me that, I was quite shocked and I didn't really know what to say. And then another person asked me that. And these were people who I didn't really know that well. And
I can see that would be really confronting.
Yeah, and in fact, one of them I didn't even particularly like that much, and I felt like punching him in the face, actually. And I thought, how dare you ask me that? Like, what business is of yours? Like, that is so personal and it's so unnecessary. I felt like it was just kind of like for their curiosity, yeah, about, so, what's your situation? Are you going to die? And, as far as I'm concerned, when people need to know if my life is coming to an end, I'll let people know. And I think there's a lot better ways to ask someone that question, like how's your treatment going?
That's right.
Leave it up to the person whether they want to tell you or not. My treatment's going crap.
How are you feeling?
Box of fluffies. But, if you say something like, how is your treatment going, then it puts it into the other person's, they can let you know it's going really well, my cancer markers are coming down, it's looking really positive. Or, shit, it's not great, it doesn't, it leaves it up to them to how much they want to share. I mean, obviously with my close friends and family, they'll know more than a lot of other people. But I just feel like I had an incident that happened at a friend's funeral. He'd died of bowel cancer last year. And I'd really ummed and ahed about whether to go to the funeral. It was the first person that I'd connected with who'd had cancer, and we'd been in touch a lot, and he passed away. And I was really scared about going, but I decided Michael came with me, and Marie from the Cancer Society said she was going to be there. So she was going to be there to support me if I needed it. So I went, and I was really glad that I went. And we ended up at the graveside committal, and these two ladies beside me, older woman, they sort of looked at me, and I had a chemo pump coming out of my chest, one of the drugs you have to have for 46 hours after it's fed in. So you're carrying this pump around for a couple of days.
So they could tell you had cancer?
Well, they didn't know. But they asked me what it was, and I told them it's chemo for cancer. And they said, oh, what sort of cancer? And I was like, I've got bowel cancer, same as my friend whose
graveside we're at.
Whose graveside we're at. And they were like, oh no, what's your prognosis? And I really just didn't know what to say to that. And I just thought, well, it's none of your business for a start. I'm at my friend's funeral. Like, it just felt so insensitive, and I was really angry, and, it was quite upsetting. I had someone else with me who took over the conversation, and I don't even remember what they said. But I've had a lot of people contact me who feel the same, and I think it actually does resonate with a lot of people with cancer. And I mean, I've put it out there pretty publicly that I've got stage 4 cancer, and stage 4 is bad. You don't need to know much more. Stage 4 is the worst out of all the stages to have. So work it out yourself how bad it is. But I mean, but at the same time, people have said to me, oh, you should say back, oh, well, my prognosis is the same as yours. I don't know how long I've got. How long have you got?
Well, that's what I guess I was thinking as you were talking then, is that in some ways cancer, it is a bit public property in a way that other conditions might not be. You might not say to somebody with diabetes, or something, which can really shorten your life, and what's your prognosis? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we there's a certain amount of implied privacy about health that doesn't seem to maybe exist around cancer in the same way. Would you think, is that true?
I'm not sure.
Right.
Now I do, probably.
And I suppose too, maybe because you have been public about it, maybe people assume that because you're public that they therefore have a right to ask you.
True.
Which obviously isn't the case at all. But
well, yeah, true. I've probably asked for it.
No, I don't think you still have entitlement to, privacy and respect and dignity and all those other things. So, I mean, you haven't given that away.
I'll certainly share what I'm really open. So I'll share what I need to share when it's time.
Yeah.
But as I said, at the moment, I don't have a prognosis, and everyone's journey is different. Everyone responds to drugs differently. There's different research and different things that are coming out all the time. And some people who get told they might only have 6 months to live can be here 10 years later. I've heard lots of stories like that. So it's almost like say if I did ask my oncologist next week, okay, be straight with me, what does my prognosis look like, which I have never asked him. we don't cover that, and I think he knows that
he follows your lead.
Yeah, unless I need to know, unless things were taking a turn, I think he would be pretty quick to tell me what was happening. But he's not. He could tell me some averages, I suppose. Like he could say, well, statistically, you've probably got 5 years to live. He might say something like that. But I haven't asked him. And I almost feel like asking that question myself, having that figure in your head almost is like walking around. It's like dooming yourself.
It would start the ticking of that clock you were talking about earlier, right? You would start to think about, I'm 6 months. It's 6 months on. How much? What does it look like now? I suppose.
Yeah, I should be dead by now.
Yeah,
And sometimes what you put out, you get back.
Manifests.
I don't want to put out into the universe that I've only got 5 years left to live, or 3 years left to live, or 6 months left to live. I want to live long enough to see my children grow up. I'm going to get upset right now, but I already sort of live my life thinking, okay, if I can get my kids through to high school, through to high school, that would be
a milestone.
Excellent. They're so young at the minute, so if I could live long enough to get them both through high school, then that would suck. But still, they'd be kind of, off to uni or old enough to kind of, And then part of me will be like, oh, well, it would be even better if I could get them into their 20s, or if I could make it to 50. In my head, I'm already giving myself little reality
things to try and hit, things to aim for.
I'm being realistic about my situation. I know stage 4 is incurable. Cancer, I've been told cancer will kill me. So I've accepted that, sort of. Sometimes I put my head in the sand and I'm in complete denial.
You're amazing, Jo.
They talk about having this kind of thing. You go through all these stages of grief, but it's true that you sort of you go up and down between the different stages all the time. I think. But so I think when someone asks what your prognosis is, I think all of that balls together, because it's confronting for me too, because I'm thinking about that myself, and I'm trying to push that out as far as possible, and I don't need that balloon being popped. I need to, in my head, visualise me being alive for my kids into adulthood, and me being and I think that in a way does pop that balloon. And it doesn't need pop,
Well, it makes it very confronting for you. In a way, you're trying to put your energy into fighting the cancer, not losing the fight.
Yeah, and why can't people kind of put a more positive spin on it rather than looking at asking a question that involves my death? Think about what you're saying and think about how it might affect that person, and try and ask that question in more of a positive way. Or just don't ask it at all. Or... I think asking something like, how was your treatment going, is the perfect one, because then they can
share as much or as little as they wish.
And it shows that it doesn't need to be, even a man I sat beside in the airplane on the way to Christchurch, when I told him I was coming up to Christchurch for event and whatnot, and I had cancer and blah blah. He said, "Oh, what's your prognosis?" People, I didn't say anything to him. I just said, "Well, I don't know." And I sort of have got more used to people asking me that now.
Yeah,
and I just have managed to come up with a few answers that I pull out, and but I still think about it. I got back to the hotel and I was thinking about it.
And you've mentioned it to me twice.
Yeah.
So that small interaction with him certainly, has stuck with you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the most important one that I would say, please think about is, think about when you're dealing with someone who's got cancer, or maybe even family. I don't know. I'm not sure how Mum would feel about that either. Or Michael, I mean, they're on the same mindset as me, that my prognosis is living until I am dead, basically.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's a long way away. So
I hope that too. You've been listening to Joe versus Cancer with Joe McKenzie-McLean and me, Colleen O'Hanlon. We know our conversations might be a tough listen, whether you've got cancer or you're caring for somebody who has. There's lots of support available and there's information in the show notes. This is a Stuff podcast produced by Chris Reed. You can listen to the full series at stuff.co.nz or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. Kia kaha, be strong.